I think Langgaard uses in his orchestration elements that could feel like water splashing in a storm against the foot of the cliff, which is right at the seaside. So there's a feeling of being kind of bombarded by waves and by clashes of salty water. And there's this general smell of sea air in this music, which comes from the use of instruments, also from I think from the key B minor, which has a slightly salty feel, to me at least. I don't know if it's only me. And then after this rather stormy first movement, he describes the flowers higher up the cliff, these kind of fragile, very beautiful colored flowers in the second movement, the mountain flowers. And then he reminisces an old history or an old tale in the third movement, Saga, which is something that is certainly very dramatic, very disturbing, scary, and very, very, very old. So we don't exactly know what he's talking about. After the third movement, he goes again on a climb and wants to climb even higher. And this is a kind of an elated and positive movement, quite short. And then in the last movement, I think all the elements in a way come together. There is both this stormy, windy, watery feeling, but there's also the gentleness of the nature on top of the cliff, with the small vegetation and the beauty of nature and maybe of the sun coming through the clouds and so on. This piece is very much a team effort. So there are solos for various instruments during the piece. There's a violin solo, there's a solo for the horn, oboe. They're all quite short, and I think in a way this piece doesn't really base itself on solos. It's rather a sort of an effort of sections. So the first and second violin sections are very soloistic all the way through as collectives, as is the horn section, which also includes the 4 Wagner tubas. And it's a section of 8 horns, so it's a really, really big group. They make a lot of noise, I can tell you. And also each group of instruments kind of brings their own color, but it's always collective. And what's interesting is that Langgaard gives also soloistic small parts for not only the first of each group, but also to the third trumpet, the third oboe, third clarinet, for instance. They have quite important small bits. So altogether, I would say it's a team effort. He actually started the symphony already when he was 13 years old, and he finished it when he was 17. So it's a young man's work, there's no question. It shows in the boundless enthusiasm of the music. And maybe sometimes one would wish that he would have given the listener a bit of a sort of rest from this incredible surging pathos and enthusiasm. On the other hand, it's really nice to feel this kind of almost idealistic view. And I think all in all, you can tell it's a young man's music. There's a bit too much of everything, but what he put into the sauce is actually really tasty. If I would meet him maybe over a pint of good Danish Carlsberg beer, I would probably ask him, why did he hate Carl Nielsen so much? So Carl Nielsen was his colleague, the foremost Danish composer, and there's no question Carl Nielsen was the better composer. But they were both quite good, and Langgaard was vehemently opposed and very, very hostile towards Nielsen. That's what I would ask, because I think Nielsen was quite a lovable character and not at all a bad guy.